In the Tanglewood Boys video, I briefly spoke about Freddy Boy, whose name is Alfred Santorelli, and who at one point in time was a ranking member of the Tanglewood Boys. Prior to Anthony Guzzo and I becoming inducted, we were at the Lucchese Social Club on Connington Avenue in the Bronx. Besides the family's administration, the youngest guy that was present that day was Freddy Boy. The next time that I was at the club was after the incident that took place with the West Side at the strip club Gossip, which at the time, the place had just transitioned owners, with the new owners being Jamie Delio, who was a West Side member on the shelf, and Ralphie Balsamo, a captain with that family. The former owners of the place was Neil Migliori and Freddy Boy. Supposedly, an Asian guy owned the property and wouldn't give Neil a new lease, so they sold the club to the West Side. After the incident we had there, Joey DiBenedetto and I went up to the club in the Bronx, and before we entered, Joey told me, "You do the talking, you talk better than me." He wanted me to explain what happened at the club. Present that day was Matty Madonna, Stevie Correa, Joe DiNapoli, Big John, Freddy Boy, and Joey and myself. I remember looking around the table at everyone as I was speaking in great detail, explaining exactly what took place that night. Everyone was listening intently, with the exception of Freddy Boy, who had a smirk on his face. I made a mental note of that, and it was the first indication of the Bronx-Brooklyn animosity. When we were back in Staten Island, I mentioned it to Big John. "What was that Freddy Boy smirking about?" He laughed and told me, "He's all right. That guy Ralphie is a friend of his." And that explained it. Anthony and I were straightened out not long after that. And the next time I was up at the club in the Bronx, Freddy Boy was also there. And it was at that time that we were officially introduced. It was Big John who introduced us, and he introduced Freddy to me as an acting captain. His father, Anthony Blue, had a Bronx crew, and Freddy Boy was the acting captain for his father. When we left that day, Big John told me that Freddy Boy relayed to him a total bullshit story told to him by Ralphie Balsamo, and I couldn't wait to see Freddy Boy again. We had a funeral to attend about a week later in Brooklyn, and Freddy Boy came with his father, Anthony Blue. As soon as I seen him, I walked over to him and said, "I know we're not supposed to call each other liars, but your friend Ralphie's a fucking liar." I wanted him to know that I was aware he was friends with Ralphie. He had that smirk on his face again, and he smiled and told me something to the effect of that the West Side likes to twist stories around. I was starting to develop a dislike for Freddy Boy, but I didn't want to make any hasty decisions. What took place next not only showed me Freddy Boy's character, but gave me all I needed to finally dislike him. There were two women who served food and cleaned up at the Bronx Club. One of them had a son, a big husky kid with a 5 o'clock shadow, who was usually standing outside the club. So one day while we were all inside the club eating, at some point, there was a little commotion out front. I found out later that Freddy Boy hit this woman's son. The reason he hit the kid was because he felt the kid didn't move out of his way fast enough when he was walking in the club. I don't like bullies. First of all, both those women were nice women who served us our food, coffee, etc., and cleaned up after us. Being that it was the woman's son, he shouldn't have did that. Here's the woman serving you, and meanwhile you just hit her son. But over and above that, he was an acting captain. What chance did the kid have with him? It's not like the kid could have picked up his hands and hit him back. If he felt the kid didn't move fast enough for his liking, he could have easily pulled him to the side and gave him a tongue lashing. Prior to our induction, Anthony Guzzo was close friends with this kid Jason, who was from the Bronx, and was the equivalent of Peter Pantuccio. If a lamppost was a wise guy, Jason was hanging all over it. Anyway, Jason told Anthony that he used to be around Freddy Boy, but that Freddy Boy basically chased him and wanted nothing to do with him. So when they straighten us out, one day Anthony comes over to me and tells me, "Listen to what this prick Freddy Boy did. He told Jason that he's from the Bronx, not Brooklyn, and started bringing him around him again." Freddy Boy didn't want Anthony putting this kid on record with him. Typically, you chase a guy for a reason. According to Anthony, prior to this incident, Freddie had the guy on the pay me no mind list, which was another example of that Bronx-Brooklyn animosity. During the Tanglewood Boys days, the mysterious Jack, who was sending letters to the Daily News and the FBI, made a claim that Freddy Boy and Eric Tofty killed a guy outside of a Bronx bar and buried him in upstate New York. Based on this information, the FBI searched one location with cadaver-sniffing dogs, but never discovered any remains. I also came across information that Freddy Boy took the girlfriend of the Genovese associate Jean Gallo, who Johnny Boy Petrocelli threw the bottle at that day in the park. Allegedly, Freddy Boy threatened Gallo to stay away from the girl. The mysterious Jack also placed Freddy Boy at the scene when Hippie shot Darren Mazzarella and claims that that day, Hippie pointed a gun at Freddy Boy, which doesn't make a lot of sense because before Hippie shot Mazzarella, he asked him, "How's Freddy Boy?" The mysterious Jack also claimed that after Mazzarella was shot, Freddy Boy went into hiding and was scared that Hippie was looking for him. I don't know whether that's true or not, but what I believe took place, all the Tanglewood Boys were laying low at that time because law enforcement was all over the place. Keep in mind, you had one guy shot multiple times and another young kid was stabbed to death within hours of each other. I guess it's fair to say the mysterious Jack didn't care for Freddy Boy either. Freddy Boy was a big earner. Along with his father, he made a great deal of money in the gambling business, as well as making a lot of money when he was a partner in Gossip Strip Club. He also made good money from the sale of the business. In addition, he was a partner in a restaurant located at 128 West 26th Street in Manhattan called Tredici Steak. Tredici is 13 in Italian. Another time we were at the club in the Bronx, Freddy Boy came walking in with a baseball hat with the number 13 on it. He said that his wife got it for him and that the 13 represented St. Anthony, who died on June 13th, which is St. Anthony's Day every year. As for his wife, either she or he filed for divorce in August 2021. They own two houses, one at 8 Ironwood Lane in Rye, New York, and the other at 774 Lake Street in West Harrison. And it's more than likely that the former Mrs. Santorelli now lives in one of those houses. When the transition in the family was taking place, the shift of power from the Bronx to Brooklyn, as an olive branch to the Bronx, it was initially decided that a two-man panel would be created for the consigliere position, and Freddy Boy and Andrew DeSimone were the names picked for that panel. Quickly, please remember to like this video if you haven't already. Also, anyone who'd like to show appreciation for videos like this, you know what to do. As most of us know, it was DeSimone who was placed in the official position. I was gone by that time, so I can't add any details as to why that took place, but the following may have been one of the reasons. Right before my departure from the Lucchese family, Big John told me that Freddy Boy assaulted a guy at his restaurant and got arrested. As for the outcome of that case, I have no idea. There's a good saying to keep in mind for guys who fly off the handle. A judge does not fly off the handle, shout, or lose his temper. He simply speaks calmly while he's sentencing you.